Tuesday, June 25th, 2024. It's 6:03 p.m. and we're convened today as the Provo City School District Board of Education. We're meeting at 280 West 940 North in Provo, Utah, and we're going to begin tonight's business meeting with a roll call. Let's start with Devin.
Devin Daly, Business Administrator.
Terry McCabe, Board Member.
Jennifer Partridge, Vice President.
Rebecca Nielsen, Board President.
Meg Van Wagenen, Board Member.
Melanie Hall, Board Member.
Thank you so much. We'd like to excuse Wendy Dow, our Superintendent, and Lisa Boyce and Gina Hales, our board members. And is there a motion to start our business meeting today?
I move that we convene our business meeting.
Thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Hall. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Partridge. We're now in our business meeting. I believe Doug is here to give us the Pledge of Allegiance. He's so excited. He made it here before I could even announce his name. So Doug, way to go. That's an A+ student right there. We are going to now have the Pledge of Allegiance conducted by our Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, Doug Finch.
Thank you. Please rise and face the flag. Repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Doug. Okay, we'll go ahead and move to the community connections portion of our meeting, which is for public input. Is there anyone tonight who would like to give public input? We'd have one person in attendance. So if you don't want to give it, then that's great. We'll go ahead and move on to our next section. But thank you for being here. Before we actually move on to our business items, we are going to bring over from our study session items 8, 9, and 10, which we did not end up with enough time to discuss. So we will go ahead and go to item 8, which is the mental health screener. And we will be hearing from Doug Finch.
Thank you, and thanks for putting this on the agenda. Annually, the last 2 years, the State Board of Education has asked each of the school districts and charter schools in the district if they want to participate and formally approve the use of a mental health screener. We had this conversation a year ago about it this time, and we identified it at the time that we were on board with saying we'll make those tools available to us if the need arises. And so we approved a year ago for the use of some of these professional screening tools to be utilized in targeted audiences and groups of students that we thought that we would benefit from receiving that information. I want to be clear that all of this questionnaire and screening would take place only as an opt-in parent consent activity. We did not utilize any of those approved screening tools last year, and so it's time again to identify if we want to participate in the mental health screening process again and notify the State Office of Education. One caveat or addition that they've added this year is that they put on here as a condition for this approval that we agree to, as much as we could anticipate, utilize the screening tool during the school year. Now, I don't know that we have to promise up by a certain date and a certain number, but I think they are wanting, I think maybe based on last year's feedback, that maybe a lot of people opted in, but it was scarcely utilized. I think there's an encouragement to be able to say, let's make sure these tools are more widely known and understood so that they could be utilized by those who support students with their different mental health needs at times. So I wanted to provide you just a little bit of background information on this. We have participated on a biannual basis in the SHARP survey, if you remember, and that's a mental health and other types of risk factors survey, and we went to great length a couple years ago in identifying if we wanted to participate. There was some concern from some of your constituents about what the use of that data was, et cetera, so on and so forth. We made clear, though, that we made all those questions available. A number of the board members reviewed them each one by one, as well as the idea of how that information is reported back in kind of the general cohort group versus any of it being disaggregated to individuals. we went ahead and participated a year ago in the 2023 Sharp Survey Administration. And that's just a related note to note that that itself is a bit of a screener of sorts in that survey. But we just take certain cohort groups of maybe, I think there might be 6th grade, 8th grade, and 10th grade, that we have a sampling of each of those grade levels. We find, though, in those results, and this is what we advocated for as to why we would want to participate, is we've found in each of the times that that survey has been administered that we've seen an increase in results that would make you concerned about evidence of depressive symptoms, suicide, or self-harm, as well as things related to improper substance or prescription drug use, right? So we see from the sampling that we have through the Sharp survey that there are increased incidents of these mental health concerns. Our team of school psychologists, social workers, and school counselors would be the ones who would primarily be the ones who would administer this, or at least would then come to their school administration to want to suggest a targeted audience. It wouldn't be administered to an individual. It'd be interested, say, to maybe a grade level or a class of individuals who they could tell through other kind of indications that there was a concern and would like to dig in a little bit more to find out what the mental health needs of the students are. If there is an individual, just so that you're aware, our school psychologists and social workers already do this on a one basis with the consent of the parents to participate in something of utilizing these professional tools to assess the mental health needs of students. But this would be taking a group, say a grade level or a class or a cohort group that was large enough that any of the results wouldn't come back and identify an individual as much as maybe identifying some targeted needs that would want to support that group in developing greater resiliency and other types of well-being strategies with them. Also, it's important to note that this legislation that was passed a couple years ago is a parent opt-in. Parents would have to consent to participate. And we would have, from the time we designate and advertise that we would conduct a mental health screener, there would be an 8-week waiting period between the announcement and giving parents plenty of time to receive notices and information, review the questions and so forth, before they would consent to opt their child into participating in the mental health screener. So those couple of things are just important to note, that I think that as I visited with our leaders who have helped with mental health, particularly our social work team, that from those resources then interventions can be put together. There can be referrals for support for grade levels classes that could lead to things such as accommodation plans, IEPs, more targeted and specific services to the individual. Of course, all of these results would also be given as notification to the parents of what their child's indicators were from the survey, as well as resources to help them make decisions how to best support their child. So it's just this in between of general awareness of how kids are doing at school and having these professional, really well developed tools that are on the state's approved site for mental health screeners as something that we would agree to administering in this next year. Again, I can't speak to the idea of how many times or this, that I think they're just wanting to have us not just in kind of like by merely just accepting the idea that we know that they're out there, but that we fully agree to participate when we find targeted students or a group of students that would benefit from this general health screener. I think those are the main points that I wanted to present to you, and maybe from there, if I missed a point that I didn't track very well with you, I'll just answer your questions at this point.
Any questions for Doug from the board?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So what is the reason why we didn't use it this year? Do we have other tools that we've been using instead?
Thank you. That was a point I was going to make. Thanks, Jennifer. As you'll know, for a number of years in this school district, we've been one of the vendors we've worked with is Panorama, and Panorama has conducted for us a kind of a check-in with students and how they're feeling about their well-being at school. It wasn't a mental health screener, but it was kind of a general check-in on the different social, emotional, and well-being skills that students had and felt about their success in school, et cetera, et cetera. I think that for a lot of our schools, they've been able to utilize that general data to identify targeted needs to set goals for and support students. So I think that it's been utilized in like case one-on-one situations. These same screeners have been used, but this idea of taking and giving the survey to a group of students. I think the Panorama survey was serving that need in the past. It's important to note, Jennifer, that as of, I think, of a week ago, we've notified Panorama that we are moving forward without our continued participation as being one of our vendors, a third-party vendor. So we won't have that kind of a survey moving forward that provided that data in the past around the social emotional well-being of our students. So that would be possibly a reason why this might be helpful and might be better utilized when we don't have Panorama this upcoming school year.
Okay, so we've used this screener from the state on an individual basis,
Yes.
but when you said it wasn't used, you meant on a broader.
For this intent here of just saying that it's a screener for cohort groups of students as opposed to
And then
one-on-one.
can I ask a clarifying question? With Panorama, we won't be administering that survey at all for school climate?
That's correct.
So how will we gauge how we're doing on school climate?
I think that there's some components that are associated with the add-ons that are being developed for the NWEA as well as the Power School. So I think that discontinuation there was a bit of a, as you guys have spoke about in your last meeting, a little bit of a cost-benefit analysis of the different contracts we had around software programs, and we felt that we could consolidate some of those tools, right, into these other products that allowed for other features and was already well aligned with our student information system. So I don't know a lot about how they relate to that nice asset that Panorama brought to us around that kind of well-being or that school climate culture survey, but there are some components that I understand are part of the future purchase.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead, Meg.
Remind me, you probably said this, but how do we identify the cohorts that they want to give this?
Yeah,
Like, what's that look like?
It would probably look like some recommendations by the professionals who are working with. It could be,
Okay.
for instance, a teacher. It could be
Right, okay.
someone who's saying, I just have some students that are really having difficulty with just things such as low mood, anxiety, even suicidality, and how that can be a contagion sometimes within a school.
Got it.
Sometimes this can take place after a really hard event. Like, again, unfortunately, we deal with crisis from month to month, if not week to week sometimes in the school district. And there's some concerns after what's occurred as to how people are recovering and responding. It could be that would be a time to dig in and say, can we get some data on how everyone's doing who are maybe a cohort group around that individual, like a grade level or.
I see. So it's prompted kind of by the teacher,
Yeah,
or
it'd be
it could be an
prompted by us
administrator
as
even. that's-
professionals
Okay.
to say, here's a tool that we can say, we can now give a decision. I'm sure they would work with their supervisor, elementary or secondary supervisor, and make the plans to move forward. And then it would initiate this 8-week process of notifying families, giving them the opportunity to learn more and to opt in. It would be an opt-in only. I want to make sure I emphasize
Right.
that as far as people saying, yes, I'll have my child participate in the data that you might collect from that survey.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, thank you so much. Item number 9, the boundary discussion regarding the Osprey Towns Park and Heather Lane. And that is for you, Devin.
So this process was started back on April 30th with a discussion about 2 different developments in Provo. One is Osprey Towns and the other one is Heather Lane. There was a little bit of there was a discrepancy between the boundaries that the student services had as opposed to transportation. And with the process of changing boundaries that the state has set, we started that process. The board voted to start the process to clarify those boundaries for the public. We held a couple of public meetings in the beginning of June, and then we talked about it again on the 11th at our last board meeting, and we are bringing it here for you tonight to approve. The Heather Lane the boundary change will send those students to Sunset View, and the Osprey Towns will send those students to Franklin. Existing students that are there, which are not many, will continue to go to the schools where they are attending, but any new students that move in will be assigned to those schools, and that's where the busing will be assigned.
Okay. Are there any questions for Devin regarding these two boundary proposals, as we will be voting on them later in the business meeting?
No.
Okay. Thank you so much. Our final item from the business meeting is our secondary school assignments. Real quickly, I did send everyone a copy of just a spreadsheet that shows what our current assignments are, and then we can reassign as we discussed today. So if everyone wouldn't mind just kind of pulling that up, and actually, everyone should have access, but hopefully I did it right, so you can bring that right back up.
Sorry, where is it?
It's a Google Doc I just shared with everyone in
Okay.
an email.
I don't see it. Oh, got it.
Everybody see that? So the first tab there is what our current assignments are, and then there's a second tab here we can bring up for our new assignments for the next 2 years. I did talk with Emily Harrison, who will be taking my seat, and she doesn't necessarily have an opinion on what she wants or will inherit, and so we're okay to go ahead and just reassign. I think the idea is for everybody to have 2 secondary schools, is that right? Or I apologize, for every secondary school to have 2 board members. And I included East School and East Bay Post High in there, and so we can just kind of go ahead. And does anybody have any preference on what they'd like to do?
I spoke to Gina. We would like to be assigned to Shoreline.
Okay. So let me bring up our next one. So that would be, you two would be the 2 on Shoreline, and I wrote Dixon. I need to write Shoreline there. Okay. 1 second. So that would be Gina and Terry for Shoreline. Okay.
I was on Centennial last year. I wouldn't mind staying on Centennial.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind staying at Timpview, but I know that there's 3 of us that have Timpview kids. But
Well, and I was going to say there's 4 of us that represent Centennial and Timpview.
Yep.
And we've done 2 years one
So
way. I
I'm
was just going to flip them, but if you want to, you're going to have a kid at Centennial?
I'll have a kid at Centennial.
Okay, then you can stay if you want to stay.
And yeah,
Yeah.
that would be my preference.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just going with preferences so far, and you can see the development of the spreadsheet here. So I was on Provo High last year. I'm happy to do something different. But it looks like if both Gina and Terry are on Shoreline, then that would mean I would have to be on Provo High. Terry, do you happen to know if you or Gina have a preference, if either one of you would rather have Provo High or Independence as your other assignment?
I really like Independence.
All right, would you like to keep that?
Yes.
Okay, great. And then I would go on Independence with you, and then that would put Gina on.
No, someone from the east side needs to be on Independence with me.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any East Side board members who would like to take Independence?
I can do Independence.
I guess we need to remember that Lisa doesn't have any assignments yet either.
Was Lisa on Independence this past year? It doesn't
Yeah,
say that here, but I think she was.
Lisa and I were on Independence
Yeah.
together.
Okay, I must have missed that. Okay, so Lisa was, well then that would put 3 people on Independence, according to what we have on our homepage.
You're on the wrong tab.
No, I'm looking at the current assignments. Right, I know I'm on the.
Gina's not assigned.
Okay, so then maybe we're off on what our homepage says currently. Gina's not on Independence. Okay. Good, that actually evens out some of the questions I had. Okay, so
I mean, I could do Independence, Lisa take Lisa off. I only had 1 secondary school last year, so I could
Okay.
do 2, like Lisa or somebody
Can
could
we
have
put Lisa
a break
on-
and just do 1.
okay.
I have 2 elementary schools. I don't know.
Our elementary schools stay.
Yeah.
We
right.
keep
Well,
our elementary
right.
schools within our boundary. We're not switching those. It's just the secondaries that we're hoping to
Right.
have 2 board members on each secondary. So,
That's good, Meg. Do that. And then see if Lisa's okay on Centennial, and I'll switch to Timpview so we can switch things up a little bit.
okay, so Lisa on Centennial and
if she has a real preference that she wants to stay at Timpview, we can work it out between the two of us, but
Okay. The other Provo High representative, let's start with Provo High.
Give it to Jean.
Gina, since she's on the west side, so that would be 2 there. There's 2 on Shoreline, there's 2 on Independence, 2 on Timpview, 2 on Centennial. East School and East Bay is what we still need representation on. And let's see. Lisa only has 1. Melanie, you only have 1. Gina only has 1, and I only have 1. So East School and East Bay, we could put plenty of people on.
I
Any?
can switch Independence to East School or East Bay.
If I remember right, Gina only has 1 elementary.
Yeah, that's what I was
So-
trying to ask, like, I know.
So we
like,
gave
how
her an
everyone's
extra assignment.
Okay.
yeah, so like,
So it's
Lisa
more
only has
balanced.
and
one
Lisa
elementary
only has
school.
1.
Right.
Okay, so let's
Elementary.
give East School or East Bay to Lisa. Anybody have any idea what Lisa might prefer? I feel like she's kind of an East Bay kind of girl. How about that? Okay.
Because she was Bay last.
She was on East Bay last time, so you know what? She sounds like an East School girl to me then. Okay, and then what if we was Gina on East Bay last time?
Says she
Oh,
was
Gina
East
has
School,
2. Well, Gina has Shoreline and Provo,
but she only has 1 elementary.
so we could
I
put
think
her
she
on
could-
East Bay. I only have 1. And I'm currently on East School, so maybe I could do East Bay. That puts Gina and I on the exact 2 same schools.
That's okay.
If I'm okay with that as long as nobody else feels funny about that. Jennifer, if we could put you on East School, does that work?
I feel like I have a lot of other responsibilities. I'm okay to only do 1 from the spreadsheet if
Okay,
other people want it.
that's totally fine. Let's see.
You can
there's
put
2
me on
here.
East School,
Okay.
but that would be 2 of us on from the east side.
There we go. That's true.
But I'm okay with that. I mean,
I'm okay with that too. Let's see, 2, 1, 3, 2, 2, 2, and 2, and then 2, 2. Okay, that's 2 representatives for each school, and each of us has 2 assignments except for Gina, who has 3, and Jennifer, who has 1. Does that sound fair to everyone? Is everyone okay with these assignments?
Yep.
And these will be our assignments for the next 2 years.
And if Gina has an issue having the 3, I will take 1 of them.
Okay,
I'll
does
take
that feel okay with everyone? Okay. All right, that's official. Bonnie, I gave you access to that same spreadsheet, so if you wouldn't mind, who updates the website? Shauna. Shauna, I'll give you access to the spreadsheet. If you wouldn't mind updating our website, that would be great. Okay, let me share that with you as we speak, so I don't forget. Okay, there we go. We all have our new assignments. Well, that'll be great. Okay, that takes care of item number 10. So now we can actually move into our business meeting items. So, section E of our business meeting, let me get back to my spreadsheet, or excuse me, my agenda. Perfect. Okay, let's go start with E1, consideration to approve the revised policy 5280. Jason, if you don't mind giving us a quick summary before we vote.
So policy 5280 is an update to a policy that we've had on the books about discipline and termination of employees. As I mentioned, we have had a policy for a number of years. It hadn't been updated for a while, so in some ways it was a rewrite based on the changes to laws and rules that have been created over time. And so we had our attorney that we work with us on rewriting that, and we've had it posted for the last couple of for the month to be able to make sure we got feedback. And we worked with the associations, both associations, very closely on developing the policy and having them read through it and give us feedback.
Okay, great. Is there a motion to approve our revised policy 5280?
I move that we approve policy 5280 as discussed in study session.
Thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Van Wagenen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Partridge. Any further discussion, starting with Board Member Van Wagenen, if there's any?
No.
Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed with nay? That motion passes unanimously. Business item number 2, a consideration to approve our final FY24 budget. And Devin, if you wouldn't mind giving us a summary.
This is just to approve the budget for this fiscal year that we're just ending this week, and has been discussed a lot. So it represents any changes that have been made since we approved the budget last year at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the final fiscal year 24 budget as discussed in the study session.
Thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Hall. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
Oh, wow, I think all three of you did. I'm going to
Give
go
it to
with
Terry.
I'm going to go with Terry. Second by Board Member McCabe. That was great. That was in stereo. Any further comments or discussion, starting with Board Member Van Wagenen. Did you motion?
No, I
It was
did it.
Board Member Hall. I'm so sorry. I'm getting
It's all good.
confused. There's only 5 of us, too. I don't know why I'm getting so confused. Starting with Board Member Hall, if there's any.
I just want to say thank you to Devin and her group because this has been a lot of work and you've had to change it multiple times. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And for presenting it multiple times.
My favorite thing to talk about is the budget, so you're good.
And you're good at it, so we're grateful. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed with nay? That motion passes unanimously. Business item number 3, your consideration to approve mental health screener. Doug, if you wouldn't mind giving us a quick summary.
Sure, it's been just a few minutes since I made the presentation, but maybe you've thought of another thought or question that you wanted to pose. But again, I want to present to the board their consideration of voting for the annual approval of the state's program to offer a mental health screener to students in cohort groups that would be with parent opt-in consent and access to the instrument and so forth, with their willingness to participate, that it could be a great assistance in us providing for the overall well-being and help for our students for this upcoming year.
Great, thank you so much. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the mental health screener.
Great, thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Partridge. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Van Wagenen. Any further comments or discussion, starting with Board Member Partridge, if there's any? None? All right, then all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed with nay? Great, that motion passes unanimously. Business item number 4, the consideration to approve the proposed boundary for Osprey Towns Park. Devin?
So this is just the final discussion and approval for adjusting the Osprey Towns Park boundaries to be included in Franklin Elementary.
Okay, great, thank you so much. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the boundary for Osprey Towns Park as discussed in business meeting and according to state code.
Thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member McCabe. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Van Wagenen. Any further comments or discussion, starting with Board Member McCabe, if there's any? Jennifer?
I have, should we have in the motion where that boundary is so that
Yeah,
is
probably.
clear for the future?
Yeah. Should I change it? I move that we approve the boundary for Osprey Towns Park to be for the students to attend Franklin Elementary School as discussed in business meeting and according to state code.
Did you catch that, Bonnie? Okay, great. And so motion made by Board Member McCabe, second by, do you want to re-second that, Meg?
Yes.
Second, re-second by Board Member Van Wagenen.
I'll second.
Sorry for the
Sorry.
surprise, but thank you for re-seconding that. Now, any further comments or discussion, starting with Board Member McCabe, if there's any?
Nope.
No? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed with nay? Motion passes unanimously. Last business item of the evening, consideration to approve the proposed boundary for Heather Lane.
Very similar to the last one. This is just to adjust the boundaries to bring the whole development into one school, and that school will be Sunset View Elementary.
Okay, great, thank you. And we'll probably want to change that motion to
I move that we approve the boundary for Heather Lane for the students to attend Sunset View Elementary as discussed in business meeting and according to state code.
Okay, great, thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member McCabe. Is there a second?
Second. She
Oh,
got it
I think
first.
Jennifer beat you. Second by Board Member Partridge. Any further comments or discussion, starting with Board Member McCabe, if there's any?
No.
Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor with aye? Any opposed with nay? That motion passes unanimously. And we will go ahead and take this opportunity to adjourn our meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn the business meeting.
Thank you. Motion made by Board Member Hall. We are now adjourned.